Before I start the video, you might have noticed that my Twisted Colossus review from a few days ago was re-uploaded. This was because it got copyright striked. Apparently I forgot to add the credit to the song ParagonX9 Chaoz Fantasy I used in my intro. This strike means that the video is demonetized and any profit I would have made from the video would go straight to ParagonX9. That review currently has 11 views. Congratulations, ParagonX9. Six Flags Magic Mountain is called the thrill capital of the world for a reason. They currently house 19 coasters, and with the addition of Wonder Woman, it'll become 20, the most coasters in any park in the world. Today, I'll be ranking its coasters from worst to best, but excluding the 4 kiddie/family coasters because they don't really apply here. Let's get to the list. Coming in at number 15 is Gold Rusher, a vintage aero mine train that opened with the park. I don't think this coaster is particularly bad, and it does serve its purpose as an intermediate family coaster, but as a thrill seeker, it doesn't do that much for me. It does give a good view of Full Throttle and is in a nice, scenic location. Coming in at number 14 is Ninja, an aero suspended coaster. This coaster is kinda family, kinda thrill, and pretty rough. Really doesn't do much for me, and I hardly ever ride it. Coming in at number 13 is the New Revolution, a classic Schwarzkopf looper which had the first ever vertical loop. Besides the iconic vertical loop, the Revolution suffers the same fate as the other 2 coasters previously on the list. It's a family coaster. I don't find this coaster rough, and the trains are actually pretty comfortable. Overall, it's a solid coaster and a good coaster to have your first inversion. Number 12 is Viper, an aero mega looper. I've already expressed more of my thoughts in my top 10 worst coasters video, but overall this coaster is super rough and really bangs your head around. The track profiling is awkward, but it does have a large drop and blistering speed. Coming in at number 11 is Superman Escape from Krypton, an Intamin shuttle coaster. It was the first ever roller coaster to reach 100 miles per hour. My problem with it is its slow launch. It takes almost 7 seconds for it to reach its top speed. It's also a super short ride that served the park no purpose besides breaking the world speed record. Overall, Superman's an alright coaster. Its deafening roar can be heard throughout the park, and the line can move really slowly at times if they're only running one side. Recently, the park added new launch components, and now the coaster seems to be clearing the red zone more consistently. Also, one side is now facing forward. Good on the park for keeping this classic ride in good shape. Entering the top 10. Coming in at number 10 is Scream, a B&M floorless. This coaster is very loud and suffers from a B&M rattle. The elements seem uninspired and really don't do much for me besides banging my head around. The only reason I would ride this is if every other line in the park is impossibly long and Scream usually tends to be a walk-on. The redeeming quality about Scream is that the front row actually gives a very good ride. It gives the appearance that your feet are going to touch the track, and all the elements seem to be much more aggressive and smooth in the front. Overall, Scream is an alright coaster, but wait for the front row. It's totally worth it. Step right up, West Coast racers. You knew you were coming sooner rather than later. Coming in at number 9 is West Coast Racers, a Premier Rides family-style multi-launch coaster. In my previous video, I ranked this as the most overrated coaster I've ridden, and I still stand by that. I recently rode it, and it was awful as usual. I give more of my thoughts in that video, but overall, West Coast Racers is really uninspiring. The launches are more like pushes, and everything is so weak, blah blah blah. We get it. The comfort collars are not comfortable, and the ride always has a long line. Moving on. Coming in at number 8 is the Riddler's Revenge, a B&M stand-up coaster. Usually enthusiasts love to hate on B&M stand-up coasters, but honestly, I think this one's pretty good. It's smooth, the elements are forceful, and it even has an airtime hill. Riddler's Revenge is a nice long ride, but obviously it's built-in uncomfortable with the stand-up feature. Hopefully Six Flags keeps this coaster running for the long term, as it's becoming a rare credit and is one of the few large-scale B&M stand-up coasters still running in the United States. Coming in at number 7 is the 235-foot tall Guy Vanola hypercoaster Goliath. This coaster absolutely dominates the park's skyline, and when it first opened, it was the world's tallest roller coaster. Enthusiasts love to hate on the Giovanola Hypers for their shallow drops and lackluster airtime. While I agree with those two critiques, Goliath really does have some good redeeming qualities, like its incredible speed and bone-breaking intensity. A big problem with this coaster is the mid-course brake run, which almost brings the ride to a complete halt. I understand the park does this for the rider's safety, but it just completely kills the second half. The only road to ride Goliath in is the front. You feel the speed and the wind in your hair. Goliath gives a solid ride time, and while yes, some of the elements are boring and fall flat, I don't think this coaster is really all that bad. Coming in at number 6 is the B&M invert Batman the Ride. Enthusiasts praise inverts for their whippy transitions and forceful elements. However, I was never the biggest fan of Batman until one day I got a back row night ride, which was absolutely incredible. Based on that single ride, I could rank Batman third in the park. However, it's not always running that well. Many times it has a strong rattle and the ride just feels incomplete. I usually have to brace my head for the corkscrews, which can be a real neck banger. I'm not the biggest fan of bone-crushing positive G's, and maybe if I was, this would come in much higher. However, Batman the Ride is good at number 6. Just cracking the top 5 is West Coast Racer's far superior older brother, Full Throttle. I find the restraints on these trains so comfortable and are perfect to give you the maximum hang time on the 160-foot tall vertical loop. The launches are pretty forceful, and the backwards launch provides a unique feeling. Everyone's main critique with Full Throttle is that it's a really short ride, and I have to agree. It would have been so much better if Six Flags added a few elements after the drop over the first vertical loop. Full Throttle is one of the few coasters that I tend to ride regularly when I visit the park. It's smooth, it's fun, and it's a real adrenaline rush. Coming in at number 4 is the enormous B&M Flyer Tatsu. You can see this coaster from anywhere in the park. It's very graceful and very smooth. The inversions are forceful, and the pretzel loop is just absolute madness. That's where you reach this coaster's top speed of 60 miles per hour. It feels like your brain is going to explode, but in a good way. I really have nothing bad to say about Tatsu, except that sometimes the lines can be pretty long, and the coaster is frequently broken down. I'm so glad Magic Mountain has Tatsu, and it's a throwback to the old days of Six Flags. Tatsu coming in 4th truly shows the depth of Magic Mountain's lineup. Coming in at number 3 is the GCI Woody Apocalypse. Yes, I know, in my previous video I said this was my second favorite in the park, but after a not as smooth ride, I have to say it dropped to 3rd. I still think this coaster is underrated, and when it's running at its peak performance, I do think the elements are very good, strong airtime, and the tunnels add great effect. Apocalypse is for sure a back row ride, and you get the most whip of the elements, and you feel the speed way more in the back than in the front. The only bad thing I have to say about Apocalypse is that it can sometimes run rough. That's what's to be expected with wooden coasters. Apocalypse is a solid number 3 in the park, and when it's running well, even number 2. It's definitely underrated. Coming in at number 2 is the iconic, enormous Aero 4D coaster X2. X2 is just on another level of extreme from any other coaster I've ridden. The drop is just absolutely incredible and like nothing else. Controlled spinning is perfect and disorientating, and it still feels natural. My only problem with X2 is that it's rough. I've gotten good rides, bad rides, and absolutely awful rides on X2. Try to sit towards the back and the inner seat for maximum force throughout the layout. Despite its roughness, X2 still comes in 2nd place because of its extreme force, insane first drop, and overall uniqueness. Number 1 is a complete twist. Just kidding. Number 1, Twisted Colossus, the RMC hybrid conversion of the old wooden Colossus roller coaster. The airtime on this ride is incredible. It's such a long ride and it feels so complete. When it duels, it's just like nothing else, and I'm so glad we have this at Magic Mountain. I ride it every time I go to the park. I stand by my statement that the drop on Twisted Colossus is better than the drop on Steel Vengeance. This drop is so good, and you get to do it twice. The 0G stall provides incredible hang time. I just don't have enough good things to say about Twisted Colossus. I'm so fortunate to have Magic Mountain as my home park with their 19 incredible roller coasters. The only thing we're missing is a B&M Giga. Come on, Six Flags, do it for your flagship park. What do you think? Will Six Flags get a B&M Giga? Comment down below and remember to like and subscribe.